Welcome to the Fit Dad Nation podcast, forging strong fathers and raising a stronger generation. It's time to get up, man up, or shut up with your host, Steve Roy.
Hey guys, this is Steve Roy, your host of the Fit Dad Nation podcast, and today I have with me Craig Capurso. Craig's a former oil trader. He turned to an IFBB pro bodybuilder. He is a sponsored athlete with Cellucor, a spokesmodel for bodybuilding.com. He's also a father, online entrepreneur, and he's been on dozens of magazine covers, and I'm sure you've seen him. Actually, last night, I showed a picture of him to my girlfriend. I said, hey, I'm going to be talking to Craig tomorrow. She's like, I've seen that guy. So chances are you've seen him somewhere on the shelf on a fitness magazine. So Craig, I want to welcome you, and I really appreciate you being here.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, Steve. Happy to, talk to your community and see if we could shed some light on some of the myths or just some common ways of doing things. So, shoot.
Yeah. All right. So before I want to get into your story a little bit, but before I do that, I just wanted to share a quick story about how you and I met. So I reached out to you a couple of years. This is almost 3 years ago, I think. Found you found your story, found it very interesting. So I reached out to you. You had responded. We ended up jumping on a call. We talked for a little while, and what struck me most is, obviously you're a bodybuilder. Incredible physique. You're not your typical meathead, and you struck me as a very genuine and humble guy. And watching your videos, reading some of your stuff, I just realized that you have a sincere desire to help others, and that's really what this community is about. So that's the reason, mainly that I wanted to reach out to you here for this show is, you're kind of one of the good guys in the industry, and I know there's a lot, but you really struck me as someone that really wants to help others get better.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm glad it's getting through. Certainly there's people that go in this industry, I think sometimes for the wrong reasons, and it's always good to zero in and find the guys that are out here just to help. I truly loved being an oil trader because I didn't have to make money through fitness. Sometimes when you turn your career monetization strategy through fitness, it kind of you sell your soul a little bit because truly, if you were just trying to help people, you'd love to do it for free. But sometimes we've got to eat too. So life has changed. From originally when we had talked when I was in Wall Street and doing different things and where it was going from there. So I hate to come across trying to sell anyone anything. I would first offer, how can I give you? How can I help? How can I, benefit you in some way? And I'll figure out, and life will pay me back in one way or another. So again, I'm just happy to go ahead and improve somebody's quality of life if I can, and we'll figure out how to make money off of another time. But truly, that's the goal. And that's, I think, what all of our goals should be. And one of the things that you mentioned, what I hear a lot from people who message me on social media is, I can't believe you got back to me. And it's like, right. Well, who are you following? Why are you following people that aren't going to get back to you? Or why are you even looking for advice from somebody who's just, a poster boy that's all I'm just going to present to you, but I'm never going to give anything, or I'm never going to interact. I don't see the purpose. If we're here to give, then you give open, with open arms. And it may take me a little while. I might be busy with something, but if you send me a message, most often or not, especially specifically a direct message, it's going to get returned, one way or the other.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I tell you, that's one of my least favorite things about this industry, especially, I spend a lot of time on social media, and Instagram is a big one. And I'm just so tired of seeing these quote unquote experts, that have probably purchased followers, fake followers, whatever it is. But, they claim that that they're these industry experts, nutrition experts, and just all they're really looking to do is make money, buy my $19.99 ebook. I've reached out to tons of people in this industry, and very few, especially kind of, bigger name guys like yourself who are all over the place in media, very few actually will respond. And so it's just great to see that. And I feel the exact same way. I'm not here to take your money and run. It's about helping first, and as a result, money will come. And it's been a long struggle for me, no lie. I'm not out trying to make a buck at every opportunity. It's about giving back, and I know you're kind of in the same boat. But maybe you could just tell us a little bit about your backstory and kind of why you got into fitness, and kind of maybe what some of your inspirations are that got you started down this path.
Sure. All right. So I'm 36. Let's put some context on it. So I'm not a young buck anymore. I'm certainly not. I haven't hit my 40s yet, and I still don't look 36. I still look like I belong in my 20s, but it's all good. So I went to college. I played football all through high school and all that. I played college football, semi-pro afterwards with a team called the New England Knights, and I was bigger. I was a big guy, 230ish. When I was playing. At 5'10", and I got into Wall Street at some point. I'll just say I took a career in finance and moved to Florida to open up a mortgage office because I was doing that in my earlier years. Fell through, but the good news is I had a background in finance, and I took up a job to get my Series 3 license as a commodities broker in Florida. So that opened some doors for me, and I ended up moving back home, which is Connecticut at the time, and to just interview in New York City. And so that's how I kind of got my job on the floor, is I actually went back and just started interviewing. And I came on as a clerk. 2 years I spent on the floor of the NYMEX, the New York Mercantile Exchange, as a junior trader / clerk, just learning the ropes, and became a derivatives trader. So I was trading on the floor of the NYMEX, the heating oil, gasoline, derivatives pits, and trading a little bit of crude oil as a hedge. And so my badge was meat. And so I just became, this kind of like fitness person, but, this business guy. And so some of the early companies kind of like found out about me because I started becoming, let's say before I started competing, I started boxing. There was a charity event going on, a Wall Street kind of white collar boxing things that I started getting into, and it helped me shed some of my, call it football fluff, because I was just big. The bigger you are, the faster you can move and hit somebody, it felt good, and you were a better football player. But in life, you don't need to be that big. So as I shed some of this fluff, I started getting into the fitness stuff and said, hey, I'm going to start doing some of these shows with an overall arching goal of just getting some notoriety and connections and, opening some doors. And it worked out. My first show, I won. And then my second show I did, or maybe the very next year, the first show of the next year that I did, got noticed by someone at Cellucor. I didn't win the show, but I looked good enough where they came up to me and found out my backstory. I'm a fitness guy on Wall Street. And so it was a wrap from there. They kind of were trying to court me for about 6 months to a year. And I just was making enough money that I just didn't care about them. Unlike today, where people are just doing everything for free in fitness and getting sponsored. Hey, give me supplements. I'm going to rep your brand. I was playing hard to get back then because it didn't matter. I was a career guy first. Mm-hmm. And, afterwards I saw the writing on the wall as I was growing in my ranks. I won the bodybuilding.com spokesmodel search in 2012. And, that kind of just solidified a little bit more of what I can offer them. So they finally paid the piper. So that's kind of how I got into the industry, kind of started boxing, shed some weight, started doing some of these shows for, notoriety purposes and see what I could do with it, just because I had a passion for fitness anyway. And, kind of just moved along, a slow trajectory. I took my time with it and just didn't jump the first thing that was thrown to me. And so I would say as advice to anyone who potentially and I'm not sure this is the exact crowd for that, but I mean, I think there's a market for people in their mid years. And certainly I want to speak to that because you don't have to look a certain way as you get older, and you could certainly be inspirational as you get older. I think there's a great market for that. And I'm positioning myself into that as well, just like you are, Steve, that, fit at 40 kind of thing, as we age. It's just a number, it's how you feel, and it's what you do with your body every day that's going to make a difference in the run. So, certainly I had some younger aspirations of, being this bodybuilder and all that, but it faded fast. It was this very subjective sport that I took as much as I could out of it, learned, and then continued to grow myself professionally as well as, personally within my relationship and having my wife and a daughter.
Sure. Yeah, I understand. I mean, I'm 46 and yeah, it's true. I mean, I look probably 35, but I feel great. Like you said, age is just really a number. So let me ask you this kind of off topic, but I just thought of this. So, I've kind of watched your transformations on YouTube and different things, and you go from being just this enormous beast, and you lean out, and you're super cut, and all that stuff. And I'm assuming, and you look like a natural athlete. I'm just curious to know if there were temptations or how strong the temptation is to be driven to, the Rich Piana type lifestyle where, they're just taking, growth hormones and steroids and all kinds of stuff to just get the edge. It doesn't seem like that was quite your bag. You're not trying to be, Mr. Olympia and all that stuff. But I would be just curious to know if that's really rampant and you're being approached and, that's an opportunity for you frequently.
Sure. I'll just be frank with you. I mean, it's everywhere in that industry. If you're competing for money or you're competing at a high level for sponsorships, it's everywhere. So certainly you're approached or you're thinking about it or it's on your mind and you're thinking about how to get to the next level. But when you look at the overall arching goal, you're going to just say, how much is enough and how much am I willing to do? And I take it like this. I wrote an article way back when I just first started and, everything for me was, pitching, about being natural, this or that. But if you go to other countries or if you go to other places where, banned substances are legal, then what makes you any different from those other people that are basically just taking supplements in their own country? And so it kind of puts a common phase of it. You might be taking what you're comfortable taking. Some people are taking pre-workout and they're taking 4 scoops or 3 scoops or 2 scoops, or they're taking test boosters and they're taking, quadruple the amount because they want to, get an edge. It just depends on what you're willing to do. But in the end of the day, you got to have a good base. You got to be able to put the work in, and there's no amount of steroid or supplement that you're going to be able to take that's going to do the work for you. I certainly know that, things do enhance, things make it easier. But at the end of the day, do whatever is going to be comfortable for you, your family, and your health. Because certainly I think in some cases we're seeing now more than ever studies that say, hey, food probably impacts your testosterone and other thing hell of a lot more than maybe a supplement. If I just was listening to a podcast the other day, and a study that I came across before, where if they did the male panel of males, let's just call them a population, say 30 to 50, from 20 years ago to today, and just did a blind study, they're going to find that today has 20% less testosterone. And why is that? I would say food has a huge thing to do with it, and probably the stresses that we put on ourselves. But not to take away, I would just focus in on the foods, the genetically modified hormones and all those other things. So I would say, yes, it's out there, but you can do a numerous amount of things and value to your body with the right foods and the right organics and different things that you could take to make yourself feel better and look better.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Obviously, we know that there's so many external influences that affect testosterone, something actually I talk about quite a bit with my community as well. But so, one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on the show is because you're a dad. And unless I missed something, you have one daughter?
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously you're, a very busy guy. You've got successful businesses, online, businesses. You're competing, or you were competing, but you're very dedicated to the sport of, bodybuilding and training. So, I am very curious to know, and I'm sure the guys listening here are as well, is, what are, some things the busy dad, these guys all have busy lives and families and everything's going every which way, at a level that's obviously not where, they have to invest the amount of time I'm sure that you invest in, prepping, preparing, cooking. I mean, I know everything for you is probably counted out precisely. And, most guys aren't going to, 99% of the guys aren't going to take the time to do that because there's no need to go that deep. But what are some kind of things that you would throw out there as, some of the top kind of ideas that they're going to keep guys on track or get on track to kind of get their health
Sure.
back?
Well, let me set the record straight. I used to count.
Okay.
I used to count everything. But after doing it for so long, I've accustomed myself to somewhat know. I mean, I'll still throw on sometimes for a protein, just to make sure that I'm taking in a specific amount. But I would say it's a lot more about figuring out what your choices are, but starting early. You start your day off early. There's a book that says, I'm trying to get my Audible right now, see if I can give you the exact title, but more about what do you do before breakfast? Or I forget the name. It's a yellow book. I'll see if I can pull it up as we're talking. But if your day is spent, let's start with your sleep. I think it's a better way to start with your sleep. So study after study is saying that we need 7 hours of sleep. So find a way to get 7 hours of sleep, but that's all you need. Don't sleep more. Don't sleep less. Find a way, if that means your day starts earlier, or if that means you go to bed earlier. It just depends on how, what your commute looks like to work, etc. I benefit because I work out of my home office. Some of you guys have to commute and spend time away, where I've done that before, but find a way to optimize what your 7 hours of sleep look like and figure out what the rest of the day could be. if you have to spend time with your family, if you have to spend time, commuting, what can all of those things, how can you optimize your capacity in a specific day? And I say capacity is this. I just did an interview with Cellucor a couple months ago, and they're asking me about the New Year's resolution. I don't think we should set New Year's resolutions, but what I should say is, how about we talk about what is our capacity and what is our priority? So if you want to have a better family life, then you're going to have to prioritize putting some family time into your day. But if you want to optimize what your fitness is, then you're going to have to start saying no to some other things, whether that be social life or whether that be time on the couch or whether that means, time reading, etc. It's too often we will say, I can't do something. But I think if you guys could all say this with me, I prioritize such over such. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so much a stronger way of saying I have control than I'm going to let outside factors control me, if that makes any sense. And it's just a way for me to optimize, let's call it self, before any other outside extenuating circumstances can change me. And so to try to give you a takeaway or what you can possibly do, write a list of all the things that you may want. And then you're going to find that, those wants aren't really needed. And then you're going to find out what your wants or needs, and then just figure out how to prioritize those in your day. We all got the same hours in the day, same minutes, same seconds. We just got to find a way to optimize them in a way that's going to fit for you. And if jerking around all day is going to be cool, looking on social media and doing all these other things, find ways to do those things when you're not having to focus on some other priority. If listening to a podcast or listening to an ebook or something in a car is going to be for you, or on a commute somewhere, on a train, whatever, do those things. Don't sit around, watching, mindless TVs or things that aren't going to allow you to, get better at yourself. Obviously, preparing foods or just having the right foods in your house. Organic meats, I would stress, we were just talking earlier a bit about that, but having organic foods in your house, something that's going to be benefit to your health. So when you're going to get your blood work at the end of the year, your lipid levels and all these things are positively being impacted by the foods you're eating and not being, messed up by the genetically modified hormones that you are ingesting, is going to help. Feeling better, getting some caffeine in your day. I would certainly say a lot of people go on like caffeine fasts. That's good and all, but it's been study after study shows caffeine's there to help improve you, help keep weight loss down a little bit, and give you more energy and more mental clarity throughout the day. Don't overdo it, but don't over supplement, don't overdo anything. I think everything in moderation. You don't have to eat 10 meals a day every 3 hours or whatever the popular beliefs back in the day. If, I would say certainly a couple big meals, just to get your bulk of your calories, and a couple snacks are good to go. So don't overdo the bodybuilding mentality. I think that's been proven wrong. And it also potentially would be proven against you that the more frequently you eat, the more you're going to stimulate blood sugar and other things that are going to actually cause you to want to eat further. And so I would say, look at the 3 to 4 big meals per day and snack in between. Or even fast, going into a 16-hour fast and eat in a window. I'm good with all of those things. It just really depends on your lifestyle and what you want to do. You don't have to carry a lunchbox with you. You don't have to carry any of that with you. If you don't want to eat till you get home, don't eat till you get home, if it makes sense. I've done it all the ways. I've done keto. I've done them all. So, specifically just so I could speak from a standpoint of having experience. It just depends on what your lifestyle fits, how your body works. Some of us are more carb sensitive than others. Some of us are hypoglycemic, etc. It all just depends on you. So there's no blanket coverage I can give you. It's about trial and error and find out what works for you. So I would say try things.
Okay. I'm sure some guys listening are thinking, I hope he asks him about his diet. I mean, I want to try whatever that guy eats, I want to eat. And like you said, it doesn't matter what you eat. It's got to be for the person. And that's where I try to instill in people. But there's so much misinformation. There's such old school mentality. Oh, wait a minute. I have to have breakfast. I have to have 6 meals a day. Like still people are caught up in all of that because there's just so much conflicting advice. And your diet isn't going to work for me. It's not going to work, probably for the next guy. So yeah, it is very, very personal. But what I'm very curious to know is like a typical day. I mean, will you walk us through like a typical day for you? Including sure. Like, not just what you're doing, but like, when you carve out or how you carve out time to train, which I'm sure you're there for a while. And then, family life, and obviously I'm sure eating and cooking and prepping is probably a decent chunk of time as well. So I'd love to hear about your day, or typical day anyway.
Sure. I'll try to go into it as best as I can. It changes often, but today, for example, or let's just take it like a Monday. Let's start on a Monday. So I have one client that I train. I was in a marriage enrichment class with my wife at the church, and he was telling me a story about how he had a trainer, ended up passing away, and so I had this like guilty obligation to feel like I should fill that guy's shoes. And so I don't usually train people, and when I do, I charge them a lot of money. But this guy, he needed a hand, so I helped him out. So I train this guy a couple times a week, and he gets me up at 5:45 in the morning to train him at 6 to 7 at my house because I have a home gym. And so Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, I'll train him in the morning. So I'm up at 5:45 on those days, and I'll train him for an hour, and then I'll potentially go back and take a nap, or if I, was able to get bed at a decent time, and we'll talk about decent once I get to the end of my day, then I'll potentially stay up and try to get some either work done or maybe just hit a quick session myself or some kind of stretch therapy because I'm going through some mobility issues. Then my wife will be going to the gym, and as soon as my daughter wakes up, I'll watch about 9:30. My wife will get back from the gym, so I send a little daddy-daughter time in the morning so I can, not check that off my list. It's a good time. I enjoy the years that I'm having with my daughter right now, but I'll cook us breakfast. I'm cooking usually, 3 to 4, I would say 3 to 4 eggs myself with some egg whites in between. I'm not measuring a whole lot, but I would say I would try to get 30 to 40 grams of protein if I could, pretty much eyeballing it. I would have some oats probably at that time, and some fruit, some blueberries or strawberries. So that would be the breakfast. I probably won't eat again until 1 or 2 o'clock. Usually that'll hold me over probably till 1 or 2 o'clock, where I start looking at the clock. I'm like, man, I didn't eat yet. And it's not that I didn't intentionally try to eat. I just didn't. I got busy, and I found myself at 2 o'clock and I didn't eat, which is typical for me. And then I won't eat anything besides probably, maybe a scoop of peanut butter or some more berries or something like that, right before the gym. Potentially I might even have a shake before the gym if I can remember to do so. And then I'll come back from the gym and either have a shake or just a big protein meal with, some carbs in it. I like chips a lot, so I'm going to have a bag of chips at night just because I like salty, crunchy things. And I don't have a lot of carbs during the middle of my day besides the fruit. I don't overdo carbs. I've always been, not one of these guys that crushes it. If I can remember to cook or if my wife will cook, then we're going to have rice on hand and we'll do some rice during the day. But most often or not, I'm usually saving my carbs for a bag of chips at night. So it's kind of like offsetting or being flexible in approach. Therefore, I'm never craving anything. There's usually no cravings because I'm getting it from the salt. I'm satisfying my taste buds with that. And then I'll probably have another protein meal at night or a phage yogurt with a bunch of stuff in it. And so I'm probably between 2,000 and 3,000 calories on, just eating off the cuff. So I'm probably in somewhat of a caloric deficit and probably slowed down my metabolism enough where 3,100 calories, scientifically speaking, is my maintenance, but I'm probably eating in a deficit. But I don't have any desire to be big right now. I'm happy losing a little bit of weight, whether it be from body fat or even muscle, which I have been sabotaging just because I'm trying to be more mobile and be faster with my new sport, which is CrossFit and performance. And so I've certainly, if people saw me, from when I was in industry, walking around at 225, 230, not as lean as I am at that weight right now, but certainly bigger. There's bigger parts of my body back then than now. Obviously, shoulder mobility and all that, I've had to restrict and, shrink in that area. But obviously legs and everything else, I was still able to, train. So that's pretty much a typical day. As far as bulk cooking, I'll try to, cook a bulk set of chicken and we put it in the crock pot, or, we'll cook a couple pounds of beef. We're going to be buying a cow here soon. We've done it last year. We'll be doing another one where we just throw, 400 pounds of meat in a deep freezer and just go back to it kind of thing. And so you have plenty of that. My wife is big into red meat as well. She's got low iron, so that helps her. So we'll probably have, stocked on red meat. Our protein choices are chicken, red meat, turkey breasts, and some. I don't have fish that often anymore. Back in the day, I used to have a lot of it when it mattered. But it's usually those three choices. We don't get too crazy with it, and some, probably beans or something that get some other protein choices from the legumes.
Sure. I mean, is there anything that you do? I mean, it sounds, relatively straightforward and doesn't sound like a great deal of planning. I don't know, in your experience as mine, you know, I- so many guys overcomplicate the diet piece and they want to know every single thing they have to eat and how much. And, it's just, first of all, it's a massive pain in the ass for them to try to track everything. And I do think that it does make sense to track and understand, how many calories you need and what the deficit and all that stuff. But what would you say to the average guy, just to simplify it, the whole process of not freaking out about what you can't eat, how much, how little, what's good, what's bad, does fat make you fat, do carbs make, all that stuff. Like, do you have any just high level or low level, kind of basic things that you tell people, not to overwhelm them, but just say, this is not that hard. It's just boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And you'll be fine.
Sure. I mean, I think the best thing we could talk about is how do we grab a baseline? Okay. So just like we were talking, we're all individuals. And so the best way to grab a baseline from each user or each person who might be doing this is to basically just have them track for a week to 2 weeks. Don't try to diet, just track what you're eating. And just so you could see and establish where you might be going wrong. And a good place to do that is like a Calorie King or MyFitnessPal, where you can, scan the barcodes and kind of just really quickly get used and train yourself on what that might look like for when we do want to provide a diet for you and say, hey, these macros should look like this, potentially these meals. So when you're eating your typical meals, you might find out, hey, I'm only eating, 20% protein, 40% carbs, and, the other 40% from fats or something like that. So, it would just be a good way to establish what the baseline should look like. But don't get confused with the caloric maintenance, Mifflin St. Jean method or anything else. Those are just, let's call them beacons, numbers, some kind of a factor that, with all things being even, should be, but none of us are even. We're all off. We're all weird in our own way. So just realize you're okay. It's okay to be different. It's okay to be off, and it's okay to have a slow metabolism, but it's now what do we want to do with what goals that we have? And so most often, let's just talk about the averages. Most likely we're talking to some middle-aged male that's overweight, has a spare tire on his stomach. How do I figure that out? Okay. Go and track your food for every day as much as you can, establish a baseline, but don't trick yourself into eating good because you're tracking. Log the pizza, log the ice cream, log the beer. Let's just see what the totals are. Most often we're going to find we're like 80% carbs, 120 grams of sugar a day or some crazy number because I'm having soda and I'm having all these other things. And so the easy thing to do is back down the water or back down the liquid drinks with sugar in it. That's the first thing you do is you get rid of that. And then you track and then see what happens. Okay, I just cut 400 calories off my daily plan and I actually feel better this week. Okay, we made a small modification, take away the sugary drinks. Okay, now what can we do? Let's get rid of some ho-hos and put in some other, whole nutritious meals. So it's not about doing the global diet first, but it is about making smart, flexible choices. I would say that's the easiest way to go and the most long-standing effect. Once you realize, the things that are causing you harm, it's easy to eliminate them and you find substitutes really fast. People don't like Splenda and the sweeteners, but I'll tell you what, it's a lot better than having all the sugar, that you're consuming. So whether you look at the health implications of them as well, let's look at the overall arching. Is it better to be, 40% body fat or 20% body fat with some Splenda and some of these other things in there? So.
Makes sense. It makes sense. Yep. So let me ask you this here. So I think most of the dads that are listening to this probably fall, kind of in the same boat here where, you feel like you have no time, you have no energy, you're stressed out over, family stuff, mortgages, payments, bills, all this stuff. Your diet's all over the place because, you're eating when you can, or they bring in lunch at the office. I coach dads for a living, and so I hear this every day. It's the same story over and over and over. And there's no real answer, but, what would you say, to a dad that, so let's say you met someone that just, fell into that category. I have no time. I'm tired all the time. I want to be able to keep up with my kids, but I can't. My weekends, I just want to sleep and watch TV. I'm eating, I have no idea, sandwiches and whatever my wife cooks me. What are a couple things I can do to just get my shit together and start feeling better, moving better and looking better?
Accountability partner. Someone who's going to basically call you for your bullshit. Mm-hmm. It's great to have, a circle of friends and people that you're going to enjoy laughs with, but most often they're leading you the wrong way. They led you to the point of looking like crap and feeling like crap. You didn't do it to yourself. They did it with you. So most often or not, it's not someone living a solo life. And that's, usually there are cases, but most often it's who we surround ourselves with, which is who we become. And so I would say find a compatible partner who's on the same goal and mission as you, and make your objectives very loud and clear to everyone who's around you. And it might be about eliminating some people from your life temporarily. You don't have to exclude them, but you certainly don't have to spend as much time with them if they're leading you down the wrong path anyway. Certainly be very clear with your objectives, but be very short term. Okay. Don't think about climbing the mountain, but think about climbing the next 100 feet. So that means I'm going to get to the end of the day and eat good. Then that's your first goal. Then you're going to say, I'm going to get to the end of the week and have 4 out of 5 days, or 4 out of 7 days rather, eating good. Then do that, but make small adjustments to your lifestyle for them to have the longest. They always say 20% of your efforts are the 80% of your gain, or there's some formula that they always say, but the 20-80 rule, yep. It matters. Just the little things matter the most. And if you could find, there's a good book that I read called The One Thing by Gary Keller. Mm-hmm. It's what should you do, not what could you do. Find that thing, find that should in your life. What should you be doing, not what I could be doing. So find out how to take actionable steps now, not later.
Yeah, no, that's well said. Accountability is enormous. And some of the programs that I've run and challenges, I've seen some of the best results when I've actually paired guys up with strangers in the group, because it's not just your ass on the line. It's now your buddy that you're screwing if you aren't doing what you're supposed to do or what you say you're committed to. So I love it. And it's actually the foundation of one of my new programs. So huge. And you're absolutely right. Well,
let me circle back on one thing too, which I didn't cover. You need a good spouse, whether you're a male or female listening to this. You need your other partner who's part of this relationship, feeding your kids and all that. Mm-hmm. They need to be on board too. And I have this argument with my wife all the time, because I always get on these like little kicks where I want to be really, really clean about our diet. I want to remove sugar. I want to do all these other things because, some cancer, resides in my family, and I want to make sure that her and I are healthy. And she always brings up, well, we're not going to do that to our kid. Well, why not? Mm-hmm. What? If your kid's young enough, they don't know any better, then why not everybody adopt the same thing? Why do they have to have the crap snacks or all these other things? Why can't they have the fruit and the veggies? So, just think about how far down you can go to influence change in your life. And if one person's, sabotaging you, it's only going to be a matter of time before that creeps into your own being as well. So try to set the record straight at the house first, and then everything else is going to branch from there.
That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, obviously we know the stats on childhood obesity. It's interesting. Just thought of something. When my first daughter was born, she was 6 weeks premature. She was 5 pounds. And by the time she was 1, she was only, I think, 12 or 13 pounds. So she was very small, almost failure to thrive. And we were giving her, normal, healthy foods. And the doctor said, she needs more weight. Start giving her any junk you can give her, that she'll eat. So hot dogs, ice cream, like heavy, fat, disgusting, whatever, but it's got a lot of calories. And, being new parents, we're petrified that, we're not doing the right things. And, so we end up getting her on this diet. And then by the time she's 4 and 5, it's all chicken nuggets, pizza, hot dogs. And now she's 12. My oldest is 12. And it's still a struggle now today to get her to eat healthy foods, because she's been conditioned, my fault, to eat garbage. And obviously it gets in your system, and it's these chemicals and all sorts of other crap they put in there. But it's horrible for you.
Yeah, I gotta say, look at your health professionals first. Mm-hmm. They're not usually the beacon of health and fitness. Usually they're the opposite. They're sitting on their butt all day. So take everything with a grain of salt, and just know your environment, know what you're looking for, and take the advice when the advice is from a professional. If they're, a professional of whatever their degree is, take that advice, but don't let them give you some secondary hand advice that they think, that go to the professionals for that information. But I guess that's the better way to say it.
Yeah, I agree. Let me just ask you one more question before we wrap this up here. So, you're a dad. I'm just curious to know what some of your personal struggles are as a dad, trying to balance. I mean, that's kind of the key that everyone thinks they need to have, is balancing out their life with all different areas and finding time for themselves, which most guys don't. What are some of your personal struggles as a dad, not just as a bodybuilder or anything, but as a father?
Sure. I would say in my current relationship with my wife, it's about the discipline. I think some of our biggest struggles, a lot of people have money issues or these other things that, I would say obviously more money is always great. And I'm in a startup biz right now with my company Metron. And so we don't have a complete, let's call it a secure living style. It's not going up and down like it was at one point. I'm getting a salary from my company or from our company. Now I'm pulling a draw, but, getting on the same page as far as discipline has been one of our biggest challenges. And so this will lead into some other struggles. But as far as, how do I find time to spend with my wife or my kid? Again, I have the luxury of, spending the begin part of my day with them, with my daughter anyway. So I get some of that time. And at the end of the day, which I didn't cover, I jump on, probably in the middle of my day, 3:00 or so is my time. Right in the middle of the day, I go to the gym. I spend a couple hours there, and then I come back home. And then at 6:00, 7:00 at night, I jump on with our engineers. We're an international company, so we have some people in Philippines, and in Pacific Standard Time is where our headquarters is. So my day starts early, has a pause, and then start again. And so I can go anywhere from 6:00 to 2 a.m. And that's usually, I would say, I probably on average will go from 6:00 or 6:30 all the way up till midnight, 4 out of 5 days. That's probably my night. So I have a weird schedule. So I don't always have the most time to spend with my wife. She's probably the one person lacking in this whole equation, where I spend probably more intimate time with my daughter, and then obviously my work. And so, try to spend time to find ways to facilitate our relationship, would be more helpful in my own personal life. But I have a really great partner. She understands. She's rode with me from Connecticut to New York to California and back to here to Tennessee, or to Tennessee, I should say. And so she gets it. They call it ride or die, right? Ride or die.
Yep.
So I have one of those, and she's just on board. She's happy to be a support system. She's a stay-at-home mom. So, I give her time to go ahead and do her thing as well. So our situation works, but obviously there's enhancements that could be made all over the place. And we're like I said, our church is pretty supportive. I'm a Christian here in Tennessee, and they have a lot of programs that we do and things that we could do to either work with our kid or, work with, ourselves. And we're going to do a little bit more now that my wife is okay with putting babysitters into play, where forever she wouldn't. So now that we're getting to that stage, there'll be a little bit more time for my wife and I to be more proactive with each other. So I think that'll help us. But I mean, I would say a take-home message is to know your priorities and then how to allocate more time to each one of those. And each one of them has it. I would call that faith, family, fitness, fun, friends, and food. All of those things matter, and they're in a big circle in your life. You got to find ways to prioritize them all. And you may not give them all every day, but they're all the things that could make you happy. Find out when you need them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I don't think I've ever heard that. Sweet. So where can people find you if they want to learn more about you, your business, what you're doing, what you're up to? Where should they go?
Sure. I post most of my information on Instagram at Capurso. You'll see me struggle with my mobility as I move into CrossFit and these weightlifting things. So you can laugh at me as I just share an open view of all my good and bad. Most people will just show you the highlight reel. I like showing not the highlight reel. I like showing a little bit of my wins, but most of the struggle, just because I think it's more relatable and I think people can benefit more from that. And I just don't have an ego, so I'm happy to show it to you. So go there if you want to laugh. And then from a business perspective, the link in my bio there is going to send you to it, but it's metron.io. Which is my company that I co-founded, which we're a fitness platform that personalizes fitness stimulus. We recruit coaches, and Steve and I talked at the beginning of this call offline, potentially something that we may work on in the future, but it's just a platform that, really hones in on how to give personal advice to people that are looking for it when it goes down all the way down to the set level, the weights, trying to get them performing at the right stimulus. And so it's something we're working on. We got a lot of things in the works. We're still startup phase, but we're out there. You can subscribe if you want, but I don't want to take away from Steve's thunder here. So go to his website first.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Last thing too, and I just want to get your thoughts on what I'm about to say, because it's kind of a mixed reaction. But one of my mantras, one thing that I teach my community is, if you're not taking care of yourself first, you can't take care of your family the best way possible. And so some people say, oh, that's selfish. And I always argue it's selfish not to take care of yourself from a physical standpoint, because you're doing yourself and your family a disservice, and it's hurting every area of your life.
Yeah,
do you agree with that?
I do agree. I do agree with that. It's, the people that say it's selfish and I don't know what they look like or what their background is, but if you sacrifice everything, what's the point of living? I take it, this was one of the takeaways from me leaving the fitness realm of bodybuilding and going into something more performance-based. If you're always sacrificing for someone else, you're only going to make a hole in your being. We have, we're in this class where they talk about love busters. And it's about having like a love bank. And so all the things that are going to be depositing love bank points into your let's call them your bank, bucket, hole, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. You got to deposit things that are going to be positive and want to make you do whatever you're doing. But if you're this angry, rotten person because you're just continuing to give and getting nothing in return, then you're only going to be miserable, and everyone around you is going to be miserable. So certainly if you're only giving to your family and they're never giving you anything in return, then it's not going to be a successful life, and you're most likely just going to be a statistic. And how many, you may know the numbers better than me, but how many divorced dads or families that are out there, and why did it come to that? What can we do ahead of time to not do that? And I think it's just getting everyone on the same page and being very clear with your communication. I think communication is the biggest misleading factor in most relationships. And if you don't have that, and that means, hey wife, hey spouse, hey dad, I need to go and do me for a little bit and get something for me, or find ways to incorporate fitness within the family, whether that be some stretching time or whether that be, some workout time, just because one partner's, into fitness and the other one's not. I think that's a good problem there as well. Certainly it's good be about me and, have a little bit more of, I need to feel a certain way so I could be the best husband I can be to you. But maybe there's another way to say, how can we, be the best family we can be? I think, it's good to be selfish, but I think it's better to be about we.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I could probably talk to you for another 2 hours about what you just said about how it impacted my marriage, because I was married for 8.5 years, divorced now. In a different relationship, but what you just said, there's so much to go into with that, but another time. Anyway, I want to wrap this up and just want to say I really appreciate your time with this, and looking forward to talking further and possibly even working together.
Sure, sounds good, Steve. I'm happy to be here, and again, I'm happy to jump on another call. I think within the fitness world, there should be more people talking in this kind of a light. I actually been jonesing for my own podcast since I left the Mind Pump guys, a few years back. They've obviously have done, wonders with their community, but I just been busy on another mission. And I think I'll be, starting mine this year. I already have some things in work. So whether you're on mine or I'm on yours, I'm happy to continue the conversation at some point.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, Craig.
All right, bye.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, if you want more information, check out the Fit Dad Basecamp group on Facebook. And don't forget to stop by fitdadnation.com. Until next time, keep kicking ass and taking the next step. You can do this, Dad.